So, gentlemen, part of what we want to focus on here today, guys, is having real sales leaders that can share you guys actual results. We all know, as you saw the breakdown of the room, we have a significant portion here that are probably under that 10 million mark. And when you're in that 10 million mark, you're trying to establish the sales leadership. You're trying to put together the structure. You're trying to put together and scale the organization. And these gentlemen up here have built it. These guys have done it. They're in the trenches. They're working. They're growing. And that's why we want to have them up here. So I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves. We'll have you start here, Mitch.
Cool. Mitch Hickman, VP of Sales with DT Roofing. I've been with DT for 3 years now.
Awesome. Can you share, let's add a little bit more context here for everybody. Can you share like revenue growth, number of sales team that you've managed?
Yeah, so right now we have 13 residential sales reps, 4 commercial sales reps. We did 29 million last year, and we've got a goal for 35 million this year.
Amazing. All right, Sam?
Yeah, hey, Samuel Brokenshire, Ace Roofing out of Montana. And when I was last at the helm of that part of the organization, we were doing about 23.5 million in sales with about 8 or 9 reps.
Awesome. Love it. And where are you now, just so everybody's...
Yeah, now we sold to private equity, and now I'm the manager of customer experience for the Omnia Exterior Solutions portfolio.
Cool. And how big is Omnia?
We have 12 different brands under us. Yeah.
They're up there. It's very, very large. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Chad?
Chad Fortney, Sales Director at Skool Roofing and Waterproofing. The company was about $21 million about a year and a half ago. They finished out 2024 just a little less than $300 million.
I just want you to repeat that for everybody one more time.
The growth?
Yeah.
21 million to 300 million, just under anyways.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Andy?
Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you are loving this episode. Hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale and grow your business through sales leadership training and sales coaching and training for your team, then look no further. All you got to do is text us at 945-800-4220. 945-800-4220, okay? Or just go to our website, sellonstg.com. Again, if you're a contractor and you want to grow your sales leadership training skills, your sales coaching skills, and you want to grow and help your sales reps get better, we can help commercial companies, we help residential companies, no matter what trade you're in, you just want to transform your business, okay? Come to STG. We hope to see you there. Hey, now back to the episode.
Andy Hobaica, Hobaica Services. For anyone that saw me this morning, I've been doing this my whole life. Kind of forced into the business and then just kept doing it. Found out that I love it and love helping people. We did right around 30 last year. We're going to do 35 to 40 this year. My sales team is the best sales team in the Southwest region, and I'll go to bat for that. They're go-getters. They want it. They want it more than the competitors. They always try to help first and then sell later. And I can prove it with numbers. We have 4 guys plus me, and even my 4 guys are still some of the top comfort advisors in HVAC, plumbing, electrical in the United States. So it's just feels really good to have a team under you that listens.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to start this off with a nice easy one for you guys, not make it too difficult. What is the number one sales leadership mistake that you see guys making as they're in that first role, they're trying to scale, they're trying to make those first few hires? What's the big mistake that you guys see? I'll open up the floor for whoever wants to respond first.
Do you say that the sales leaders make mistakes?
Sales leaders make, yep.
I can go first.
Go for it. Go ahead.
I think that a big problem that sales leaders make are doing a generalization. Everybody's the same, so you manage as a group rather than individuals. Early in my career, I started to do that, and I realized I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And it took some time, of course, as we grow, but ultimately you have to understand individuals' needs, wants, and what their motivators are. So I think that's a huge thing.
Okay.
Talking to your employees instead of at your employees. I had to learn that the hard way. I thought I was there to help them and basically guide them in exactly to be successful and happy and good employees, but had to take it back a notch and just be one of the team members. And that's why I stepped back in the field. So on a daily basis, I'm selling as well. so I can be on the same playing field of everything new that where we come up with something newer that we're going to try. I'm the first person to try it, and then we can prove it together or remove it together. So just being present with your team and building that courage with your team that you're doing everything they're doing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just say if we're talking when you're first starting out I see a lot of people making a mistake of hiring for experience versus hiring for the culture of your company. Like you can develop skill set, but you can't develop culture if it's not right.
Absolutely. On that culture one, I want to maybe spin this over to you then. So Tommy yesterday was talking a lot about, cutting people out and making sure that you've got the cream of the crop on your team. And I think that, at least I know it was this way for me, right? Where I struggled to want to make that cut, especially as a smaller organization. You kind of feel, man, these are like family, these are friends, these are, guys that have been in the trenches with me. When do you know when it's time to make that cut?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anyone that has let someone go in that situation, once you finally do that, it feels like you passed a kidney stone or something. And then you have that moment and you remember there was a defining moment 60 days, 90 days, 120 days ago when you knew that you should have taken action and you didn't. And I think the biggest thing is, you can train for skills, you can train for competence. There's not a lot you can do to fix bad attitude. There's not a lot you can do to fix those intangibles, character versus competence. And if you got someone and they're negative all the time, they're always, reasons why they can't instead of reasons why they can, those kind of deeper culture issues, you can sit down and you can try to address it with them, give them the opportunity to level up, show them what good looks like. Don't just say, hey, you need to stop whining. Say, hey, maybe you could choose to coach them through how to do it a little bit more positively. But if they don't get that and then they continue in that behavior, you got to get rid of them quick.
What are some ways, Andy, that you coach some of those reps and show them how they need to change their behavior?
Well, I'll answer that as well as tie in that, letting people go, right? So we don't fire anyone. They fire themselves. And it's easier said than done to where, I don't fire anyone, they fire themselves. And people are like, oh yeah, but you fire people. Well, we sit them down and we'll have check-ins with them, right? So anybody in the room that has that field person or sales guy or anybody that just needs a reality check, right? So bring them into the training room and be like, hey dude, first off, you're doing this, and this, phenomenal. You're a badass, I really appreciate it on our team. Correct me if I'm wrong, I see that we're lacking here. Is there a reason for that? Is there something in personal life? I'll have them open up because I care. And I'm like, is there any way I can support you in that outside of work? Like, I'd love to be there for you. And you're part of the family here, and this is how we run our company. And long story short, getting that check-in. And then they're still not meeting standards. Maybe a month later, 2 weeks later, do another check-in. But by the time before you're actually going to fire someone or allow them to, fire themselves, just say, hey, we talked about this twice. This is what you wanted. You told me this was your why and why we were doing it. How are we going to get there? We've tried to do this. So what I see, you tell me if I'm wrong, what I see is if we have to meet again, you're just going to turn in your 2 weeks because it doesn't sound like you want it bad enough, right? I want you to work here. That's why this is the 4th time we've met about the same thing, but doesn't sound like you want to work here. Am I going crazy or like where are we at? And more than half of those people will just look at you and be like, yeah, to be honest, I'm not happy because of this and I'm moving, or yeah, you're right, I'm not a good fit here. That's fine. Like maybe later in life you'll be ready. I'm open door, brother.
I think one thing I would love to see a little show of hands here. How many people understand what their salespeople's why is? Like you know it uniquely for each salesperson. I got a few hands in here. I think that's a really important part that you just hit on there is understanding what that driver is. Because if you don't know what that why is, then it's very hard to hold them accountable to your goals and your standards or your quota that you set them to. So, Mitch, I'm curious if you have a different way that you have that conversation.
Man, yeah, there's a lot of angles you can take the conversation. The first thing I think you say, like you gotta identify the why,
Yep.
right? So we've got a couple of sales guys that are in their 20s. And I've got a sales guy that's in his 20s he's already built and sold 3 houses. He's got a couple investment properties. I know his why is his newborn baby.
Love it.
So when I'm sitting down talking to him, it's like, what can we do to get to the next level? And he stays pretty motivated. So it's more about sometimes winding him in, like they will get ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
And so then you got a guy that's not going out and getting it, that may be lacking on the self-gens, and you just got to sit him down and talk to him. It's like, how can we help you get better? Like, what do you feel like you're lacking from the company? Because we don't want to let you and your family down.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a slight spin on this for you, Chad. So let's say you do have that person and you maybe understand what their why is, but you're still having to babysit and manage that person. How do you hold them accountable and have those difficult conversations without it getting really negative and spicy sometimes?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, sometimes it's evident it's going to be negative and spicy, but I think it's back to kind of what you said, is holding them accountable. I mean, you set forth goals, right? Everybody, we talked about earlier, setting forth goals, and then with the goals come the KPIs. So you're measuring these KPIs. Are you hitting this many? Are you making this many phone calls? Are you doing this many drop-ins? How many people are you seeing on a daily basis? I try and set a standard of 100 touches a week. Are you sending emails? Are you getting on LinkedIn? So what are you doing or are you not doing? And then try and fix people that way. It's having that open conversation is such a huge thing. Talk about the why. I say the motivators as well. And that's the first thing I do. Within the first month, I sit down with them and understand what's your motivator. Why do you get out of bed every single day? And then I touch on that. So
Awesome. Love that. When you think about and I want to get this from everybody, when you think about your role and your position, what's one system or process that you've rolled out that has been like an absolute game changer within the sales team? Let's go. Andy, let's have you start.
So I've talked about this on a couple podcasts, different stuff. What we do that's different, and again, guys, rob and repeat, right? Or rob and duplicate. We learned this in a while back, and we twisted our own way. Basically, with every team, whether it's office, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, just to let everyone know, not roofing, but office, technicians, salespeople, installers, we break everyone into their groups. So in the room, you guys want to get your salespeople together, put them all in a room, and basically we get, those big pieces of paper that you can rip off and stick on the whiteboard. We have them put their name above it, and then we have them put down the things that they promised themselves at the beginning of the year, because we do this 3 times a year. At the beginning of the year, what they promised themselves that they were going to do different, and then what they did different if they actually did it, the dollar amount to it to give themselves a raise. And these people that did it at the beginning of the year, they were all supposed to give themselves like a $500,000 raise. Like, that's badass, let's go, baby. But if they do half of those, then it's good. But then you recheck in with them, you write up, and they're like, well, like, you told me you wanted to raise, like, you're not really on track to double. What are you not doing? And you just call them out, and they're in front of their people, and sales people want to be cocky, and they want to I got this. And it's like, well, did you really door knock 3 to the right, 3 to the left, and across the street? Did you really? And they'll get real with you, and they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, is that important to you? Because if it's not, let's take it off the board. Let's take it off, because you're not going to do it. If you're not going to commit, then there's no reason to have it here. And really calling them out, and do they recommit? As soon as we have that meeting, everyone has a killer freaking week, and then just try to keep that momentum going. But you want what they're going to do and putting a dollar amount to it, and then times how many times, and if you do that, what do you actually do? And if half of it comes true, that's how you give someone a pay raise of doing it themselves.
Awesome. Love that. Chad, what about for you?
if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Bottom line. In my 20-year roofing career, I've held meetings every single Monday morning to discuss plans with my team. That plan needs to be detailed, what you're going to do this week. No matter what, this is what we have to do. We're going to talk about your plan this week and what you did last week. And how do you get better? How do you improve? So first and foremost, it's setting that plan.
Love it.
It seems really simple, but one of the big things for us was getting people to keep their CRM updated, keep the follow-ups, make sure that stuff actually happens. And, you can try to put hard, like it has to be done by this and this. At the time, we were using a follow-up CRM, which used to be called Follow-Up Power, so we called it the Follow-Up Hour.
There you go.
And we would get everybody in, and it would be the same time. It was on Thursdays. It was a fixed time. It was 1 hour, and that was the expectation. And the entire sales team would do it together, and we would do it at the same time. And so people would be on a call, they'd get a win, people would be high-fiving, someone wasn't really working it, they'd give each other some coaching, and it was really collaborative and awesome.
Love that.
So we always do a reward system, and in the past, it's always just been number one at this, number one at that, like sales, self-gen.
Yep.
And so I put in a process to change it up. We went off the KPIs, and it's on a point system. So you may have a guy that's actually one of your top sales reps, but he may not be producing the most revenue, if that makes sense. So we judge them off of sales, self-gen, margin, job started, reviews. Reviews are points. And so it builds the morale among this team because they don't know who's winning when they come in because it's a total system. So everybody's on the edge. They come in every month. We give out the rewards, and nobody knows ahead of time.
That is awesome. I love that. I think that's so important, right? Having those KPIs. What are the leading indicators? Which I wanted to step back to something that you had mentioned a minute or two ago around KPIs and expectations and 100 touches on a weekly basis. I would love to see just a raise a hand real quick. Does everybody have an assigned quota for their sales team? Like this is a dollar amount you need to hit for the year. Does everybody raise a hand? Everybody in here? Cool. Does everybody have the same thing for KPIs and expectations? Like, hey, these are the KPI expectations that I have for you guys? Okay, like half the room, all right? So that's a gap for everybody in here, for sure. You wanna make sure that you have that clear expectation of like, this is the volume that it takes. If you need help figuring out what that should be, then come talk to one of our coaches or have a conversation. We're happy to help dial some of that in for you guys, but your sales reps should know exactly what they need to achieve in order to achieve the success that they have. So appreciate that. That's awesome. In terms of, you mentioned incentives at the end there, which I think is so important. I'd love for you to maybe elaborate on that, and I want to kind of go down the room, go down the aisle the other way, and say, what is the best incentive that you put in place within the organization?
So this past year, we've always given away a sales rep of the year thing, and it was just kind of like a small reward or whatever. But we tied a $5,000 trip voucher to it for you and your significant other.
There you go.
And so because at the end of the day, they're in it just as much as you are. You're taking time away from them while you're out working. So we didn't want to do a money reward. So we wanted to do something to get you out of the grind for a little bit and go spend a little time with the family.
Love that.
Yeah, it's kind of two big things. We did a sales trip, but we kind of gamified it a little bit. Like to earn your ticket on the trip, you had to hit your budget. But then we had kickers. Like if you do a certain percentage over, we'll fly you first class. If you do a certain percentage, we'll put you up in a
there
suite.
You go.
That type of stuff. And then has anyone seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross?
Of course.
Yeah, Coffees for Closers.
Of course.
We have a little plaque, and it lines out Alec Baldwin's monologue.
Love
First prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Second prize, steak knives.
Love it.
And we get these really nice Benchmade steak knives engraved, and that's for number 2.
That's awesome. I love that. Chad.
Similar here. I think we did a contest last year, like a 3-tiered system. First place was a cruise, husband-wife duo. Because of the company size, we'd fly them into Florida, port out of Miami. Second place was $1,000. Third place was $500. But trying to get and understand, your drivers, your motivators. Some people wanted to win the cruise. Some people wanted to win money. But the majority of the people just wanted to be in first place. They didn't care what the prize was. And that was a huge telling there. So I think the prize are just bonus.
100%. So we do a little thing called a trip incentive, and there's some tie-in here. If you guys are interested in it, I can talk to you afterwards. It take way too long to go into it, but it also helps out nonprofits as well because some of how it feeds through, how it does it. But basically, a lot of it comes from they're allowed to get points on different things that they do, but a big one is Google reviews. So if one of my guys in the field, plus myself, I'm part of the contest, but someone that gets a 5-star Google review with their name mentioned in it. And if you guys want to learn about that, I can talk to you about it later. I got a great review plan. But if they get a 5-star review with their name in it, they're going to get $100 into a bank. Not $100 cash, because again, money doesn't really mean anything if someone's already making $500,000 a year, and it's like, well, it's just $100. Like, who cares? So we read the reviews in all the meetings, like this was mentioned, this one was really good, this was really good, and everyone starts laughing. Like, we'll have customers that say, like, I'd adopt this guy, he's so cute, and like, everyone starts laughing, it's good teamwork, but they get this $100, and I have some technicians and some salespeople that at the end of every year, they have, 7, 8, 9 grand saved up. What that money goes to is a trip of their choice. So basically we're paying for them to take their family on vacation. And why we find that so important is instead of giving money, if you give a sales guy that's already making real good money $1,000, is he gonna forget what he spent that $1,000 on in about 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
Well, he's gonna remember the trip, and he's gonna remember that to where we get the wives and the families involved when they get the trip, and we want their family telling them, hey dad, how many reviews gonna get next year? I wanna go back to Hawaii. So it gets everyone involved.
Love that.
Sure.
I think one thing that I want to maybe set some expectations for everybody, right? I know not everybody, you're thinking about, man, dude, I'm just, struggling to kind of get by here. Me paying, 20 grand for my guys to go on a trip, like, I'm not sure that's possible. And what I would encourage for everybody is, like, they're stepping stones. It doesn't have to be a crazy thing. It could be a new phone, right? It could be, I did a sales contest one time, and I did one of the Traeger grills. Dude, my guys were like fighting tooth and nail for that thing, and it was like $600, right? So it doesn't have to be anything crazy monetarily, but you understanding what are your whys for your team, what are your drivers, what are they interested in, what do they care about, right? If you know somebody's like a big gun guy, maybe you make that a gift, right? You get creative, and that's something that he wouldn't necessarily or she wouldn't necessarily spend money on themselves, but those are great opportunities for you guys. So I think that's really important. Go ahead.
But one thing on that, this stuff shouldn't be coming out of your pocket either, right? You should be planning for it, line iteming it in your budget, and setting all of your goals around that so that if the goal is hit, it's already paid for.
Absolutely. Yep. Great point. Absolutely. When you think about recruiting, we've talked a lot about recruiting and bringing on the right caliber, and everybody, for the most part that we talk to, everybody kind of struggles with recruiting. What are 1 or 2 green flags that you look for, and what are 1 or 2 red flags that you look for in the recruiting process? We'll go ahead and start with Mitch here.
Man, when you're in the interview process, they just won't stop talking. They're not listening to what you say. And I try to identify 2 types of people that I don't want around me. And that's John Gordon calls them energy vampires, and then mouth ninjas, where they just talk and they don't act. So I try to figure out if you fit in those 2 categories. If you fit in those 2 categories, I don't want anything to do with you.
I hear you on that. What about green flags?
Green flags?
Yeah.
So
what are this is like, I hear this and I'm like, man, okay, this is guys.
So I like to see somebody get comfortable in the interview, right? So you come in, they're a little on edge, you get talking to them, and when they get comfortable and they get relaxed and they start really opening up to you. Like I like to hear people talk about their family. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you what we get is everybody in Granbury knows that we're a Christ-centered business. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they start walking in the door, they start talking, Jesus sent me down here. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. We're a Christ-centered business, but let's talk about the real stuff.
Yep.
And so once they get relaxed and they start talking about their family and kind of, they'll start laying their goals out. That's what I'm looking for, somebody that's goal-oriented and that they ask if there's room for growth.
Love it.
Do they carry themselves with confidence? Are they intelligent? Are they smart? Are they going to be able to think on their feet? Can they do math in their head? That type of stuff. And are they hungry? Do they have something in their life that's motivating to do that? Those are the things I look for. One of the bigger red flags is we'll send someone out during the interview, go look at the car, and if the car is nice, kept, clean, it's a good sign. If there's trash, and corn dogs, and beer cans in it, they're not going to be a fit.
That's a great one right there. I like that. All right, good. We got some claps for that one. All right.
Damn it, that was mine, baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they got beer cans in the car, it's definitely
that's
not
a
gonna
hard
hire that person. For me, the green flag. So I'm a athlete my entire life, and very similar to what we've been talking about. I was a collegiate wrestler, wrestled all through junior high, high school, and then through college. So I'm looking for that athlete. I know that there's people out there that put in that extra effort. So that's my green flags. The red flags. I think you had said it earlier about the people that just don't shut up. It's also been mentioned here, God's blessed us with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Just stop talking. And then the last thing is I've had a couple people that have these 20-page resumes. What are they trying to cover up here and prove to you that they got a 20-page resume? To me, I'm just like, there's a reason that they're trying to show this much stuff off. They're covering something up, so
that's a great
red
one.
flags.
So we definitely do the car one. I've actually given that to a lot of my friends and contractors, and yeah, it changes the game from you. Even do they take care of their vehicle? Is it washed? Is it taken care of? You know, it's like that one feeling of anyone in the room's a car guy, and you see a car driving down the road, $85,000 BMW, like M4, looks sick, but the wheels are dirty. I'm like, son of a, like, come on, man, take care of it.
Good deal.
So red flag would be, so if anyone heard me the first day or yesterday when I was talking about our hiring events, if you're late, I won't even give you a second chance. I can't deal with people that don't take the time serious unless they have some crazy excuse or they blow me out of the water. Being late is unacceptable, and just the way I was raised, you know, the way I grew up, early's on time is late, late is unacceptable, and if you don't respect my time, then you know you're gonna fit in with our team. And then I look for genuine people. So if I feel like in a 10-minute talk, I would trust this individual to not only work for me, but to go over and spend some time with my wife and kids without me there, and I can feel that, I have to at least give that person a shot because this is how we run our company.
Love that, love that. I'll say there's a couple of things that we look for. One, professionalism, of course. So if you show up on an interview with a hoodie, for me, I'm sorry, sir, rejected, do not pass go. Absolutely hard pass, right? But that's a personal standard for me and the organization that we're building here. I think another one that's really, really underrated is curiosity. There have been a lot of studies that have been done by HubSpot and others. They looked at coachability, they looked at persistence, they looked at curiosity, and there was one other that I can't remember. And I'm in the room and I'm like, it's definitely coachability, like that's the number one thing. And it was actually curiosity was like the number one indicator of a sales rep's success. And so I think when a sales rep doesn't ask any questions, like, that's a hard no for me. A sales rep that doesn't close on the call, also a hard no for me on that interview. So making sure that you're really bringing in the right caliber people, because a good hire and a bad hire, I mean, it's night and day in your business in terms of how much time and energy you guys have to spend. So, Chad, I'm gonna go to you with this one. What is one thing that you do on a weekly basis that's a non-negotiable for you and the team that genuinely like moves the needle?
Well, my goal is always to try and set up ride-alongs to just understand the reps, but I think it's just going through the salesperson's pipeline and like the Monday morning thing, you know, what'd you do last week, what's your plan for this week, but going through the pipeline too. I think, so I'm in commercial roofing solely, and ultimately going through a pipeline is one thing. You can have 200, 300, 400 different businesses and people in there, but having the correct target verticals is what we all have to look at. We're making sure that they're calling on the right customers. And I think a lot of times, I've had a rep over the years who was calling on a Little Caesars Pizza. Now, in this room, can we say that Little Caesars Pizza is a customer for a commercial roofing company? No, they rent a space in a commercial building. You're looking for a property manager. So going through this pipeline, I'm like, what are you thinking, man? He's like, well, it's a business. I said, I get it's a business, but you need the decision maker to help you out here. So it's understanding that pipeline is the biggest thing.
Love it, love it. Sam.
Oh, yeah. Really focusing on the follow-up. That was a really big game changer for us. I mean, it sounds really simple, but a lot of people don't avoid it, and they get anxiety over dealing with this one particular customer, and they put off the whole thing. And just getting that, forcing everybody to do it, made a huge difference.
I'm glad you hit on that, because that's actually the next question, but go ahead. Mitch, what's your response?
On something we do every weekly that's a non-negotiable.
Yes, sir.
Our Tuesday sales meetings, we go over wins and losses, and we will sit there in awkward silence until somebody comes up with something. And then we talk about it in the room.
Love it, love it. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta have, you know, is everybody running a weekly sales meeting with their team? Right? Okay, we got about half the room. Very important for you guys as you're trying to develop the culture and you're trying to develop the environment. Andy, what about you?
Great segue, I appreciate it, Mitch. So weekly sales meetings, so we do one in person every week and one on Zoom every week. Just because the fact is that all my guys can come in on one day. That works for me on my schedule. But we do meet in person at least weekly for 2 hours or hour and a half, depends on how early we can get there. And non-negotiable is an hour and a half to 2 hours of role play once a week.
Good for you.
Have to do role play.
Wow.
He got huge. Like, so some people hate him, some people like him. He has a lot of energy. He lives in Arizona, all over social media. Andy Elliott. Went to one of his seminars. A lot, right? I don't love all of his stuff, but he has a lot of good stuff. Well, he had a door inside of his training center, and I'm like, what the hell didn't I think of that? So I had my general contractor build a door on wheels with a doorbell on it, front of the room. The person with the lowest sales numbers, lowest close rate, has to go and role play and then get judged by his peers. That person is not the lowest the next time, I guarantee it. Role play is huge. If you're not role playing, start, guys. Role playing is freaking huge.
I thought he was going to say threw him out the door. Threw the
That is awesome. I love that. So you'd mentioned follow-up and how you felt that follow-up was like one of the most important things that we can do. As a leader, how do you arm a guy that's maybe newer to sales with different follow-up strategies? Because everybody's heard, like, you don't want to call and say, hey, I'm just following up. How do you come up with like value add strategies to arm your team and make them successful? Go ahead, Mitch, let's put you in the hot seat.
Yeah, so we go about it a couple of different ways. I mean, follow-up could be from an initial sales call. So we train everybody. If you're calling out and reaching on the first time, it's a phone call and a text. Always text that way everybody's on the same page after your conversation. So hit them with a text message on everything you talked about, so we're on the same page when we get off.
Love it.
Yeah, for me, there's only one, comes right out of one of Ryan's modules. You know, always end every meeting or interaction with a deal or a next step. And so we teach our guys, like, every time you finish, hey, thank you, when would be a good time to follow up, or when should I follow up with you next? And they're gonna maybe put it off, but even if they're gonna give you a BS answer, like, call me in 2 weeks. Do it, put it on your calendar, put it in your CRM, follow through, and then when you do it, you just say, hey, you asked me to follow up, blah, 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 and I'm doing what I said that I would do. And you'd be amazed, no one gets angry at that. No one pushes back because they asked you to do it.
All right, I'm gonna throw a curveball at Andy here. You saw the eyebrows we locked.
Let's go.
All right, so you've got a follow up and your sales rep comes back and they said, oh, the person was busy and they couldn't meet and they pushed us off 2 weeks. How do you coach that rep so that doesn't happen next time?
Yeah, it's actually good. I don't know if we talked about this before. I feel like we have. But I get a commitment from the homeowner. So they're really not going to close, and I'm really not going to get it. But, you know, at the end of the day, they really do need to think about it. They're not cheap. They're not getting another quote. They need to sleep on it. Be like, how long do you really need? And just be honest with me, because I'll give you the time. I don't want to be that car salesman, but at the same time, I want to earn your business. I need till Wednesday, and it's Monday. Great. Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, because I'm going to be slammed all day. Just being honest, I'm a busy person. I want to make sure I'm available for our time. Let's say in the morning. Okay, cool. 10 a.m., is that good? What's your email? I'm going to invite you. You can accept it. We're both held accountable that we'll show up to the meeting.
Now, Chad, you've obviously got a very different sales cycle in your industry and probably have a lot of follow-up. How do you help your guys make sure that they're truly following up and providing value?
The goal is to coach more on the building rapport stage in the presentation. The ideal presentation would be you set the stage for expectations. I think similar to what you said, Samuel, is to ask the questions, what's my next steps, and ask for the close. But ultimately, I want my sales rep saying, okay, what's the next steps here? If they say, I want to get a couple more bids, you try and figure out the why. Why do you need more bids? Whatever that may be. Do you mind if I help you along this? I help you along for the steps in this process. And they say, well, what does that mean? Well, I'd like to compare the bids to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. Ultimately, I don't typically lose deals if we're apples to apples, but if it's apples to oranges, because people want to go cheap and offer systems that aren't equal to ours, we're going to lose. And then it comes to educating your customer. So then, similar to what you said, is setting that follow-up date as well to say, okay, how long is this going to take? So your follow-up's not just, hey, following up to see if you're ready to move forward. It's, hey, listen, can we get together and I can compare the different quotes you have to make sure we're all apples to apples? And that's a good segue to saying, hey, it's not just a standard follow-up, it's asking questions and bringing value to your customer.
Okay, so here's what I would encourage for everybody to do, and this is what I've done for several other contractors that we work with, is you as the leader, oftentimes we're like, man, why can't my guys figure it out? The reality is Ryan showed the assessment earlier today. So STG has personally given an assessment to over 3,000 roofing and contractor salesmen and women. And what we found is that 97% do not have the figure it out factor, right? So the vast majority of sales reps are not going to be able to figure it out. Guess what that small percentage is? Who do those guys go on to become?
Owners.
Owners, exactly. They go on to become competition. So the reality is you're never going to be in a situation where you can just rely 100% on your sales reps figuring it out. Take 2 hours, craft 5 to 6 different value add follow-ups that your team can use and put it in your CRM. Hey guys, here's one on our unique process for XYZ. Hey, here's one that explains what we do. Here's how we come out and handle this thing. Here's why we've selected this manufacturer. Put together that information. Don't just make it testimonials, nobody cares. Make it something educational that helps them work through the process. You as a leader need to take on that responsibility. So we got a couple minutes left. We've all been in seat for a little while now. I want to hear your biggest issue or thing that you wish you knew when you got started. So go ahead, Mitch, we'll have you get started.
The biggest issue I wish I knew when I got started.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a good one. Let's see. I would say that residential roofing sales reps are a much different breed than any other sales rep that I've ever managed.
Explain that. What do you mean?
So in the past, in 17 years, I was dealing with distribution sales reps, so a lot of repeat business. So now you're teaching them, hey, you're going to build a relationship with somebody. So now it's a lot of one-time customers. How do you keep them busy? But at the same time, you have to develop the relationship, but you're looking for a lot more targets to build your pipeline. And that was one thing that I had to adjust to early, but once you adjust to it early, you know how to develop the people to get there.
Awesome. Sam?
Yeah, not having a structure for training, onboarding, and then coaching and accountability. Like you just said, only 3% of the population have that figure it out factor, and it's very easy for us in this seat to be like, it's not that hard, I did it, you just do it.
Exactly. I hear it literally all the time from owners like, yeah, you know, I mean, I can do it. Like, why can't this guy figure it out, man? And it's because we have to be, if we're going to be the leader, like, and this is what I want to challenge everybody. Like, we talked a lot about like vision and purpose over the last, 3-4 hours and 2 days. Like, you all have taken the incredible responsibility of taking control of these people's livelihoods, right? These individuals, these 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 people have said, hey, I believe in the vision that you have for me. And it's our responsibility to set those guys up for success. It's not our responsibility to be like, hey, watch me for 2 weeks and then kick them out the door and hope they can figure it out. Like, that's not us doing the responsible thing as leaders within the organization. We've got to set those guys up for success.
So I've been in management for about 13 years now, and I think the biggest thing I've learned, so when I first started out in sales, I used to sell me more than anything, and I think we all should sell ourselves, but where my career took a big jump, and then when I started implementing this into my teams, is setting forth a script. So in commercial roofing, you have to set forth a script. I always had a fear while talking to customers to say, hey, do you mind if I take notes? There's nothing wrong with asking the customer, I want to take notes. And then you have a script and you pull out your notebook and you write down you have the questions pre-printed and you write down the answers. You get to understand their buying needs and their motives. And now you can take that back and analyze that. One of the things I do is mark down the stars. What are their pain points in this conversation? So that has changed my sales career onto my management career to teach these people. It's great that you sell yourself, but you have to have a process there and you have to put a script in place.
Okay, have to have a script in place, have to have a process. We've heard from 2 people in a row. It's almost like we got a theme. I got $20 for them later. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Andy?
I'll spin it a little bit, just talking from a sales guy to a sales manager to salespeople. What I'm about to say, it's easier said than done because everyone knows it in the room, but who actually sits their people down on a monthly basis during role play and goes over it with them to not spend with their own pocket, right? I struggled with that when I first started, to where if you know air conditioners at all, you have good, better, best, and the best is a 150 stage system that will cut your electricity bill in half. I've done it. But the salesman, especially a new guy, saying, shit, I wouldn't buy that. I'll probably just quote the good and better one. Literally, I did that for like 2 years because I just was spending with my own pocket. And then lastly is walking up to a home, never, ever, I don't care what you're selling, judge the home. Shitty yard, cars are not taking care of anything. These people ain't gonna buy shit. Like I better just give them my quote and leave. Those people spend more money than the home that's worth $20 million because they actually care about the benefits, the extras, and the bells and whistles because they care about being comfortable. They might not care about their car, which is important to you, but they care about other stuff that, to be honest, the homes that I go to that are 20, 30, $40 million homes, they want the cheapest thing possible so they can move on and get out. They don't even pay their electricity bill, their assistant does it for them. So I don't care who I'm meeting with, I'm gonna give the same presentation, the same energy every time, and let them steer the conversation.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. So we've had a few people that have hit on sales process. Seems how that is what we do. I'd love to hear some examples. What's maybe one or two things that are in your sales process that are absolute game changers for you? Let's go, Chad, if you don't mind. Putting you in the hot seat.
Let's say outside the script. That's a good question. So part of my process, and I'll touch on this a little bit tomorrow too, when I hire a salesperson, I like hiring salespeople that are athletes, and anybody can train. You can't teach sales. I mean, you can teach sales, but the roofing part, you don't have to know roofing to be a good salesperson in the industry. So I can teach that process. I think that's the only thing I got, to be honest with you.
All right,
That's
cool.
my
Sounds
go-to.
good. Sam?
Yeah, do an inspection or a needs assessment regardless of the situation, even if it's absolutely obvious this is the issue. Get up there and look around. Look for other things. If anything, it convinces the homeowner that you're not just focusing on the problem, that you are doing something thorough and comprehensive.
Absolutely, right? We talk a lot about expanding the gap, right? Where their current state, future state, and helping that be as big as humanly possible. Mitch?
Yeah, just the biggest part of our process, I feel like, is the follow-up. After you've done the inspections and everything, following up, keeping everybody on the same page. That way there's no surprises.
Awesome. And Andy?
We have time for two?
Go ahead.
So real quick, I'm talking about it, someone at lunch, and they're writing it down. I'm like, please just implement it and let me know. So there's a difference of going out to someone's random house and you really just want to sell them something and they need it, versus if you went out to a relative's home that needs your services as well. If you were on the relative's home or a best friend's home and you looked over and you're selling a roof and their gutters were full, would you clean it out? Probably, because you want to help them out and they're part of your family. Do you do that to your customers for random? Most people don't. I'm telling you, man, like, we'll teach our guys, like, treat every person like your best friend or family member. My guys will come down, and I've seen this to a T, I've seen it on video, it's amazing, I do it all the time. They come down with a big black trash bag, they're like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, before we get started, and I come in and talk to you what's going on, is your trash can in the back or front? I need to throw this away. And they look at you and be like, you're using my trash can to throw away your stuff? Be like, I apologize, your gutters were full, and to be honest, there's nothing worse than me coming home from work and my wife yelling at me about my gutters being full. It took me 5 minutes, I had a garbage bag, some gloves, I had to take care of it for you, it's all good. Just something huge that you can set yourself apart. Again, help instead of sell. And then lastly, so people, about follow-up, we were just talking about something we implemented recently. Again, I stole this idea, tweaked it a little bit. Raise your hand if you do follow-up. Okay? Now, same people that do follow-up, most people, if they don't answer, you're gonna leave a voicemail, you're gonna shoot a text message, right? Well, we do something a little bit step further. We leave the voicemail because at the end of the day, we had a set time. Like, Chad was supposed to answer his phone. We had it on the calendar and everything. It was set, so I need some commitment, and he didn't answer. And everything was good. Hey, Chad, it's Andy with Hobaica Services. I called, I'm gonna hang up, I'm gonna text you too, but we had that scheduled call. But don't worry, you're in luck. You're the winner here. This afternoon, I'm gonna be in your neighborhood at another job. I have to check one of my installs. Unless you call or text me back, I'm gonna stop by and we can go over what we were gonna go over on the phone. Have a great day. They have to call you back, or you go on the door, they answer the door, and they're like, ah, crap, I did get a text from that guy. Hey, how you doing? And they have to confront. Now, if they're gonna say no, great, check them off and move on. But I'm telling you right now, another 20 to 30% of those, they'll literally be like, man, this guy, yeah, okay, come in, let's just do this.
Absolutely. That is awesome. Yeah, you just show up, right? If they don't respond, you just show up and you're there and you can deliver that value. But you also delivered a ton of value on the front end with just like some of the little things. He's got some awesome tricks. You guys should definitely spend time with all these speakers after. Let's give a round for all of our speakers here, panelists. Appreciate you guys.